Hi, this is Keenan Maxfield, and I'm here to show you how to use the PVWatts Solar System Size Calculator. Now the first step is to figure out how much energy you need. And so you can see here I have this bar graph that shows kilowatt hours on the left and the months that those kilowatt hours were used in on the bottom. And I just looked over it briefly and estimated an average of 2,200 kilowatt hours for this example. Now, that equates to, that's 2,200 kilowatt hours per month, which equates to 73.33 kilowatt hours per day, or 2,600 kilowatt hours per year, approximately. So once you have that, I just always do a back of the napkin, so to speak, ballpark estimate, based on some experiences and averages that I've had. But that's only a preliminary step anyway, so I'm going to show you how to do it right. So here, I just always Google PVWatts. PVWatts. And as you can see, it's the first result. It's pvwatts.nrel.gov. Now, I always start off by, you have to just start off by putting the zip code of the job. I'm going to use my own zip code for this demonstration. 629. And it automatically pulls up the closest government data center, not data center, but test site where they've tested how much solar it gets. And as you can see, I am down here. That's the zip code I put in. The closest one is Salt Lake City. But there are also these airports. These orange ones, in my case, are airports. They may have other things they could be as well. But those are other weather centers that also harvest data. But the government ones are supposed to be more accurate unless they're too far away from your location. So I normally would leave this on the default selector, unless you're in an area where that happens to be a very long ways away. So click next. So I already did my ballpark estimate to see how much power how much solar we're going to need to produce that much energy. But if you don't have any clue to start off with, you can just put 1 kilowatt here. And you can pick your module type, standard, premium, thin film. I always leave it with standard. It gives me a little bit more conservative result, meaning it'll produce a little bit more than it's saying it will, versus premium. And if you're doing thin film, then you definitely want to select thin film, but I never use thin film. And put what kind of an array it is, open rack, roof mounted, or tracking. And your system losses are calculated based on all these different factors. Normally, the original estimated system losses are going to be fairly good, unless, for example, you know that you're going to get a lot of snow during the winter and it's never going to be pushed off. You can adjust it for the snow and little things like that. I'm just going to leave it as is. And you definitely want to put in the tilt in degrees. Now, let's say you don't know the tilt and you just know that it's a 6 pitch, a 6/12. You can always just back to Google and find a pitch to angle calculator. And this block layer one is actually pretty good. I've used it a lot of times. As long as it doesn't have a glitch. And it comes up default with a 6 to 12. So you can see that 6 here is 26.57 degrees. Let's say our roof were a 9 pitch. Then click this button. And now we can see that a 9 pitch would be 36.87 degrees. Now for your sake, I hope you're not having to install solar on a 9 pitch roof. It's doable, and I've done it before, and I don't hesitate to do it again, but it's not as pleasant as, say, a 4 pitch. So I take that 36.87 degrees. Was that right? I always like to double check myself. And then the azimuth, that is the angle at which it's facing. So 180 degrees is straight south. And you can see that if I hover it, it shows me this little thing there of what that means. And so 180 degrees being straight south, 90 degrees being straight east, 270 degrees being straight west. I'll just pretend like I'm facing these straight south. But you do want to make sure that you put this in right, because otherwise it'll give you totally wrong outcome. And advanced parameters, I'll just look at that. And inverter efficiency, this is something that sometimes you want to make sure to get right. It's going to make a small impact on the output that you get from this calculator. But since I'm just doing a demonstration, I'll leave it as it is. And a lot of people say that it actually makes a fairly negligible amount on your calculations. Just rounding down to one panel or down up one panel sometimes can make a bigger difference depending on the size of the system. And then this can also be used to create an economic analysis. I don't do that because I make my own economic analysis. So, but if you're interested, you can play around with that. Hit next. And it shows you that 1 kilowatt would produce annually, would produce 1,510 kilowatt hours per year. So you could just, from there, you could just take, I'm going to pull over my calculator here, and I already have here loaded my annual amount of power that this system is going to need to produce. So if I just take this number, 26,400 kilowatt hours per year. Earlier in this demonstration, I think I accidentally called it 2,600. It's 26,400 kilowatt hours per year. I can divide it by 1510. And I can see that it's showing that I would need 17.48 kilowatts of power, just based on that previous number. So I can hit back and put there, I could put 17.48. Yep, that's right. And you can see that now it's saying that it will produce 26,407 kilowatt hours, right in the correct ballpark. So that would be perfect. Now let's say, oh, I just hit the wrong button, sorry. I'm going to have to put all this back in there. That's what happens if you hit the back button when you mean on your browser rather than hitting the back button here. So if I were to say that this tilt angle were 20 degrees instead of 36, which would equate to, if my memory serves me right, that would equate to somewhere around a 4 pitch. I can double check it here though. If I want to say the angle, if the angle were 20 degrees, yeah, that would be a 4.3 pitch. So if I said I were installing the same system on a 4 pitch, that would be 18.43. And I can click next if that's the only variable that's changed. And you can see that now the output has dropped to 25,633 kilowatt hours. So it's important that you put those numbers in correctly. You can also see that if I were to point this array straight east and then hit next, you can see that it's dropped down to 22,500 kilowatt hours per year. And if we were to point this straight north, now it's only 18,241 kilowatt hours per year. Now this is pretty surprisingly good. If you think about it, these panels are pointing north. So that's a pretty good number. However, it is at a shallow pitch, a 4 pitch. If we were to take this back up to a 9 pitch, oh, wrong spot, right here, 9 pitch, which was 36 some odd degrees, then you can see that our output has dropped even further to 13. So just make sure that those numbers are right. If you have some panels facing one way, some facing another, then you can just tally up how many you can fit in the best area and put that size here. And then tally up how many you can fit in the next best size area and run the calculations again, and just keep doing that until you've finally built up to the right number of kilowatt hours per year that you need. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, just depends on all these parameters. And contact me if there are any problems or any questions, or leave a comment below this video if there's anything that's not clear or I need to address further. And otherwise, happy solar designing.